Hello and welcome once again to Gaming Under the Influence. I'm Mike here with Alex, coming from GreenDragonCVR in Woodbridge, Ontario to talk about video games.
Yeah.
How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great. Just thinking
stuff.
about Soulslike again.
Oh, yeah.
Seems like
Soulslike's always on the mind, right?
That's right.
Always.
That's right. Especially having been playing so many of them lately and devoting so much time to Eliza P. But
yeah, we've been treated, especially recently.
Yeah.
Definitely been treated
this
as
year,
Souls fans. Oh, yeah.
We have, and
time.
we're coming up on Lords of the Fallen this Friday, so we'll see how that pans out. Hopefully it's another success story. But as it stands, maybe we're going to wish we made this video on Friday instead. I hope that's
Yeah,
the case.
maybe.
We'd like to talk today about the 5 best Souls-like games not made by FromSoftware. Starting in the first place with Canadian-made Hellpoint.
Yeah, that's a good place to start.
It's back from 2020. It's been a while since this game came out, even though it seems like yesterday.
Yeah, that's always the case lately, but
A little bit about Hellpoint, I guess. It's a sci-fi horror-themed Souls, like a cosmic horror-themed Souls, like you could say, set on this generational,
very alien and Geiger, right?
Yeah, Geiger-esque. In terms of the artwork, that's correct. Good,
which is cool because it totally flipped the setting upside down.
It did.
In terms of like other Souls, like we're looking at something to stand out
it's
on
unique
its
in
own.
That sense, yeah,
exactly.
Its whole theme was like a sci-fi black metal Souls, with demons and stuff like that.
Very cool, yeah.
Yeah, and its premise is that there's this generational space station, which is like, huge, like thousands of people inhabit it, called Irid Novo, and people on it are conducting these occult experiments designed to like open a rift between dimensions, and quite like in Doom, they open a portal to like this realm of cosmic horrors that invade the space station and infest everybody and turn it into a horror show, and you're some like clone or something that awakens in a tank and sets out to rectify the situation, or at least learn what's going on, gather data for whatever. Gather data for whatever intelligence runs the station. And it's on this list because of all the indie Souls-likes, and I think that year was a good year for them. There was also Mortal Shell. There was a number of 2D ones, but of all the indie Souls-likes, the scale, the ambition behind this one impresses me the most.
Yeah, very big, long game, like a typical Souls-like, whereas Mortal Shell, I would say, very similar, but shorter. That's why Hellpoint beat out Mortal Shell.
And I don't even remember the name of the place Mortal Shell took place. It was more of a conventional kind of... But the space station, Irid Novo there, it's awesome, man. It's very, very cool, and it's interconnected, quite like a Miyazaki game. You're in one place, and you see where you came from hours before, and it blows your mind.
Very impressive game.
I remember these, there was this one part where I was... you're in a park. There's a big park in the middle of this space station, right? And you see some apartment buildings way off in the distance. And later on, you're there. You're in some building. You go out one of the apartment, like onto the balcony, and you're like, "Holy crap! That's impressive." Yeah, like little details like that blow my mind consistently. And you start like deep in the bowels of the thing, and you go up to the top, and then you find some other hidden area where there's like alien artifacts and stuff. And the scale is just very impressive. It plays cool. The lore and world building especially blows my mind. I really loved it. It's a masterful work of Soulsborne storytelling in terms of the environmental storytelling and stuff like that. It's a little bit rougher around the edges, I would say, than Mortal Shell. It doesn't look as nice.
Not as cleaned
up. It's not made in Unreal. I think it's a Unity game.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think that's a small price to pay. I think it was made by 12 people for the scale and the ambition behind the game.
Yeah, if it was that small of a studio in comparison, like to what FromSoft is pumping out, that's insanely impressive.
It is. It's very impressive. There are a couple of reused bosses at the end, but you find that in FromSoft games too. So my position on Hellpoint is it is amongst the best of the non-From Souls-like games. If you can handle a little bit of jank in your games, and I think a lot of people can, based on how well Starfield sold, then you should check out Hellpoint. It's definitely worth a try, and it'll break you like a normal Souls-like game, and the world will impress you too.
Nice.
After that, changing up a little bit with a 2D Souls-like, and this one is
Souls-like.
This one's Blasphemous. We struggled. We were struggling between including Blasphemous or Grime on the list of the top 5 here, which one to include in the honorable mentions, but we ended up going with Blasphemous, and I think it's for just like, in terms of, just as we were saying with Hellpoint moments ago, Blasphemous, though it's mechanically comparable to other 2D Metroidvania style Souls-like games, I think its art direction and its concept really carry the day.
Yeah, there's a lot in that game that stands out, amongst its peers in this sense. Like, it has the art design sticks in your head. Like it's beautiful. It's very it's
perhaps the best use of pixel art ever.
Oh yeah,
I think
looks incredible, and it's obviously fits very well with the theme of the game. So everything kind of works in that sense.
That's right.
On top of the competent 2D Souls-like gameplay that it's been paired with, like it's just phenomenal.
That's right.
Yeah, if you just even Google like Blasphemous and Blasphemous 2, the art, even just look at the cover of the games, like, oh man, there's so much.
Yeah, it's really got an art direction that's memorable, and if you looked at any screenshot from the game, you could identify it instantly.
Oh yeah.
And it's unique. If Hellpoint's unique for incorporating, occult and sci-fi elements into a Souls-like game, then Blasphemous is unique because it's so clearly inspired by, I guess, medieval Spanish Catholicism, up to and including like the peak cap that's worn by the protagonist and stuff like that, all directly lifted from
all of the imagery,
historical sources and stuff like that. That's right. There's also becoming interested in Blasphemous led me to discover all kinds of things that I was ashamed to not know about in real life, like the existence of these these things called the Catacomb Saints, these bejeweled martyred corpses that people would distribute between churches in this period of time, which a number of the bosses in this game will flash them on the screen. They resemble these things exactly. It's very cool.
Is so cool.
Yeah, they
to
did
find
so
out
much
about
research to
stuff you didn't know about because of how into the devs were, right? And they incorporate in there. That's very cool. Yeah,
it's very cool.
I like that what Blasphemous did.
It's a
there,
well-researched and conceived world, and that really blows my mind. And in terms of how it plays, it's a beautiful game. Yeah. So that would earn it a spot here alone almost, but it also plays very well. It's slower compared to other games in the Metroidvania Souls-like 2D genre there, but it forces you to play tactically and learn the patterns of the enemies.
It's no slouch on the difficulty. It's it is a Souls-like game. It's difficult. You will die, no doubt about it. Like it
wants you to learn to perfect parry. It wants you to learn to dodge. It incorporates platforming elements too in the boss fight. So
2Ds, I feel like they kind of have to a little bit because that's kind of the name of the game there.
That's right. I think so. Yeah, but Blasphemous really, if you see some of the bosses, there's it's like Cuphead. There's platforms that rise up into the air and the ground becomes dangerous and you have to jump over moving shit all the way you're trying to attack the enemy. So it's a great use of its subgenre mechanics, I guess you could say, and how it incorporates Metroidvania. Great world building, great art direction, easily earns a place top 5 non-FromSoft Souls-like games, in my opinion. Coming up after that, I think, is something that everybody could easily agree on, and that would be Remnant 2.
Remnant 2, Remnant 1 and 2 for sure.
Remnant 1 and 2, the Remnant games, I guess, by Gunfire Games here. This is the only American developer on the list, besides the Spanish and Canadian one we just listed to you. And Remnant 2 is unique in the first place because it's a Souls-like shooter.
Yeah, it's a shooter.
It's an easy elevator pitch, right?
It's there. That's what makes it
shooter.
Different among the many Souls-like games that have come out. They have successfully made into a third-person Gears of War style shooter,
That's right? Yeah, and when I'm playing it, people walk by, they're like, hey, is that Gears of War?
Yeah, that happens so often. Yeah, that's hilarious. Definitely evokes vibes of Gears of War. Plays like it and feels good. It does. Just as a Souls game or a Gears of War game would.
Yeah.
It's
that's right.
competent in that sense, despite being like a AA game.
I guess it technically is a AA game, and it costs a bit less than a AAA game, even on the consumer end. But again, the interesting thing is how well they build a third-person shooter around Dark Souls style progression, even item progression. They have a very Souls-like style thing. It's not a looter game. It's a game where you have a determinate number of types of upgrade materials. You just have iron, slightly better iron, and best iron, and you find those and you upgrade the different guns up to level 20. It's not like it. Yeah, so very much like Souls in that respect. Yeah, the bosses are awesome, man. What they do is build this, especially in Remnant 2, they build this, dimension hopping story that that allows them to incorporate their artistic and fictional influences. There's a world designed after Alien. There's one that looks like like Yharnam and Bloodborne. Yeah. There's one that's right. Yeah. Alien, The Matrix, all these things you see very clearly.
Yeah, it's cool to be able to build those different levels, sort of speak, right?
Yeah.
And have them
so
make sense.
Different. Yeah, and have them make sense all in the same world.
In the world, right?
Exactly
So I like what they've done.
I like how they did it too.
Aside from the gameplay, also that aspect. Yeah, those
conceptually it's interesting too. Yeah, it's it allows them to do kind of like a it's almost like they're legitimating their fan fiction practically.
Yeah, you know, just being able to make you know all kinds of different.
There's a playfulness to it that I appreciate. Yeah, it doesn't take itself quite as seriously, I don't think, as some of the other games on this list. Like the characters are more jocular and there's a levity to the way they talk to each other and stuff. But it's still a fine act of world building. I really like the story.
Oh yeah.
The idea of the root and this like individual making contact with them, you know, across dimensions, and then promising him power and him destroying mankind for it and trying to cause them to evolve and all this stuff, right? It's a very conventional Souls-like story.
Yeah, exactly.
Very conventional Souls-like story. Like many of we didn't even mention that before, but of course that's true for all of the games on this list. Yeah. It's always about like mankind's encounter with the radically other and like some guy trying to appropriate that for his self-interest and destroying everybody.
Yep.
And that holds true here too. But Remnant 2 is shooter Souls, like great world building with this interdimensional premise that allows them to have sci-fi levels, like these Victorian themed levels. This one that looks like the planet from Avatar, giant trees and birds and stuff.
I just think it's such a strength on their game that like they're able to do that.
It is that variety. Yeah.
You know, even for the player, like just playing it as a joy, or getting something new, different roles. That's kind of the.
And we should mention, of course, the procedural generation, the way it works, right? Like this game, there's a bunch of handcrafted chunks, and they're algorithmically rearranged at every playthrough. So not only will the levels look different to you, but the bosses you encounter in your playthrough,
also different.
They'll be different. There'll only be a limited number of the total number of possible.
So we rolled different levels and of course different bosses, but also people who rolled the same levels that I rolled got different quests and different bosses anyway. So there's a complete like variety. No two games are run through the same unless you play through it multiple times, right?
I think there's two possible main bosses for each world and a number of sub bosses, like 9 or something like that. Yeah. So it's pretty impressive, and it makes it possible to something we talked about before this year, all kinds of approaches to New Game Plus and make it more interesting this year.
Yeah, right? This is one of them too.
This is another one of them. Yeah, we got Remnant 2. We had Starfield there. What was the other one we were talking about?
Yeah, there's Armored Core.
Armored Core, that's right. Yeah. A number of the great games that came out this year had a novel approach to New Game Plus. I appreciate that, actually.
It's kind of like a new trend. It's cool. I like it, what they're doing with
way better than I never played New Game Plus before. So
I don't usually, but...
And after Remnant 2, though, we should mention The Surge 2 by Deck 13, who unfortunately don't make Souls-like games anymore, apparently. They made something else. They made the original Lords of the Fallen, which is now going to be made by another developer. And this year they made a game called Atlas Fallen, which we picked up. And it's all right. It's an open-world game with some interesting movement, but it's not Souls-like.
Not quite a Souls-like,
The Surge 2, though, on the other hand, was an excellent Souls-like. I thought it was an excellent Souls-like. It had the Miyazaki-style interconnected world building. It had a unique setting, some near future like techno horror setting where people are becoming infested with this nanovirus and turning into zombies and stuff. You know, it's set in a city that doesn't look very different from a contemporary city, with just like touches of neon and sci-fi and cyberpunk. Not quite as advanced as that. It's almost like you could see yourself in it, right? So that's interesting, because very few. Can you think of any Souls-like games set today
in the modern times, or
in
like
contemporary
recent
period,
future,
with like cars on the street? You know, like even Remnant is post-apocalyptic, right? But
it's definitely unique in that sense.
Yeah, you find like a rave going on top of this tower while people are watching all the mayhem happening in the city. You know. Yeah, but The Surge 2 is a very interesting game. You know, like we've been saying this whole time, both for its setting, which is unique. You're going to enjoy it if you know, it really unfolds in an interesting way. I think there's like some little girl who's like the main source of this nanovirus, and you encounter her consciousness in various forms throughout the game, and she leads you to all these bosses and, you know, to a final confrontation with this cult leader who's attempting to once again like use the nanophage to like induce the evolution of mankind or something like that, you know.
Fair enough.
Same thing always, But the biggest thing I think we should mention about The Surge 2 and why it earns a place on this list is how it incorporates parry. In The Surge 2, not only do you have to tap a button to parry, you have to press the right analog stick in the direction the blow is coming from.
Right.
Which is awesome, I think. Really.
Yeah, it's definitely a neat addition to what is essentially, you know, usually just a single button press. Now you're adding direction. Like it's
it keeps you on your toes, man. It really
like I want to say
it's layer of observation.
It's like making it, you know, a little bit more difficult and abrasive, but also more engaging. Like you really have to pay attention. Yeah,
definitely.
To a certain point, if you get really good at Souls game, you could probably kind of almost turn your brain off and just block and parry, roll, whatever. But now it's like you got to really pay attention to where the hits are coming from, right?
And they have all kinds of upgrades and add-ons for your character to accommodate directional parrying, like certain gear you can equip that shows you more clearly where the blows are coming from.
Cool that you can upgrade to help that out as well. That's interesting. Something that's not in any other Souls game, because they're pretty much the only ones who have done this, right? Tried it.
I thought it was very cool. If we talk about Souls games as utilizing this like circumscriptive gameplay style where the character's input is supposed to be closely represented on screen, and you're supposed to feel like what you do with your fingers is it has like a 1-for-1 correspondence in the character's movement, then I think this like takes that to the next level.
Exactly. It's
very visceral, right?
That's amazing.
It more adequately symbolizes the action on screen and requires a corresponding input from you. You know? So that's cool, man. That's why I think the Surge 2 is awesome. All the world building and stuff is
the Surge 2 is like a dark horse because it's not very popular. People don't talk about it too much, but
they probably wouldn't say nice things even if they did. Yeah.
From the moment you played it, you always really like tooted its horns. And actually, I should probably give it a shot at some point.
It's worth checking out. It takes some effort to get through. It's not very much an easy game. You got to learn the systems, but I think that's
like any Souls game.
It's awesome. It's awesome, and it wasn't that long. I think like 25 hours.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah. Not that long, not the hardest stuff on the list. So check out the Surge 2. Its world building is good, but its mechanics are definitely something to see if you like the genre. And the best non-FromSoft Souls-like is something we've talked about extensively over the past few weeks, but we're going to talk about it again, and that's Lies of P.
Lies of P.
And the more I get into this game, man, the more I love it, just totally, without reservations whatsoever. It's amazing. Its world building is top notch. Its mode of conveying its story, as I expressed last week, I think I in some instances prefer it to FromSoft's story delivery.
Really,
it's clearer what it should be, and it's more hands-off in every other respect, I think, right? Like there's instances where the characters very clearly state central lore tidbits that kind of unlock the story for you, and you're not left there just being like,
what's going on?
Because of course I'm not complaining about this, but I spend most of my time in these games and wondering
what is going on until you sort of look it up and read stuff,
or until you find that one thing that unlocks it all, and you're like, but here they make sure you see that,
sure
like, it's up front, right? They have characters say certain things to you at certain junctures in the story, so
that's cool. It kind of like just gives you a little push to follow along rather than like, hey, this is it, and like
expecting you to read it in the menus or something like that. So I think that without sacrificing what makes Souls-like storytelling unique, and again, last week we talked about how they emphasize delivering crucial lore through the boss battles, through your focusing on the visual details and dialogue with the bosses over extensive periods of learning the fight, but in addition to that, and even during that, like, you could get crucial information because the boss you're fighting tells it to you. The lady you go to level up, Sophia, she tells you lore information at certain junctures. Another great little thing is that when somebody has something to say to you, there's an icon that shows their face wherever they are in the game, like next to their respective bonfire or checkpoint. So you can teleport there, go find them and talk to them.
So you don't miss any. Get the information you need. That's cool.
Because there's so many times when you're playing a FromSoft game where, like, progressing a quest with a certain character, like, if you go too far in the game, it locks it. If you do something, it locks you out. You never know when they're even available to talk to, where they are, none of that stuff,
right? They don't tell you anything.
Here, like, they don't really tell you much, but you see, like, a face, and you're like, I wonder what's there. You go see, you look around the area.
Yours, right? If you want to kind of poke around and see what's going on.
It doesn't tell you what it is or where exactly in the area, but it gives you a general idea and the incentive.
It's a good way to use the game medium, right? To give you the hint that, hey, but
so in general, that's right. Yeah, their world building is top notch. Like we talked about before, their themes are very perennial and Souls-like. They find this like ergo that can contain human consciousness and translate it beyond death, and somebody wants to use it to evolve mankind again. These guild of Blasphemous.
For the fifth time, that's going on.
The fifth time.
Fifth time on this list.
But their mode of conveying this is incredible for the reasons I just listed to you, and I really like how they retain the hands-off story delivery of Souls-like games, but they make sure that in the brief dialogue you do encounter, like, you get what you need to know
what's going on. You're always aware of the story. That's cool. I like that too.
I like it too. I like it a lot. Yeah. Never fully just stating anything in explicit terms, but it's all there for you. Like, you're not going to miss it. I like that a lot. Yeah. And I like how, like, when you get a cutscene in this game, there's not many cutscenes, they're sparse, but every time I get one, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, you get kind of excited, right?
It's only ever like, so many of them are just like the character Carlo there standing next to somebody, and they're just looking at each other, and then the camera pans at the face of the other person, and that's it, you know? And it feels like you get such a sense of like the character just from this small stuff, man. It's so
awesome.
It's so well done. Yeah, it's so like lovingly crafted. The lore is beautiful and amazing, and the best part is like how refined the gameplay is, I guess, as I play through it, right? Like,
that surprised me the most about this game is just how good moment to moment it felt, right? And it just feels tuned and like perfect, right? Nice.
I don't think we really have like we were saying like the Surge 2 has the directional parry, and this game we don't have like and Remnant 2 is a shooter. Like, I don't think this one has
not
like
a specific quality
point
that
for it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's just overall.
Just the fact that it's a. I mean, obviously it's a new game. It's coming out, so we're just unraveling it now. But the fact that it's so well done than we thought it would be, just overall, I think
some masterful work in there. Even how it takes the subject matter, which is tentatively Pinocchio, and it uses that thing as just a loose concept for telling a story about puppets becoming human and humans becoming puppets, and like the desire to transcend death and all this.
That was a big
Souls-like stuff. Yeah, it blows my mind. Wow.
Pinocchio essentially making it cool. Right?
Really, that's really the thing here. You know, it's easily the best non-FromSoft Souls-like, and I really think it gives some FromSoft games a run for their money. It's an excellent game, man. If it was made by FromSoft, if it had FromSoft on the box, for sure everybody would have given it 10 out of 10. You know? IGN and everybody. Yeah,
you're probably right.
Yeah. That's the only reason.
Hopefully it sells well.
I think from what I understand, it did. They already announced DLC.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. Yeah. And maybe we can leave it there.
Yeah, as you know, we love our Souls games around here, so any of these on this list is worth a shot, or at least checking out once.
Definitely so, especially Lies of P, I would say. But hopefully next week we're back with another new and excellent one to talk about. I hope Lords of the Fallen is good.
This came out of nowhere. I'm excited.
Let's see how that unfolds. Enjoy your games, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Oh yeah.